the meetings, it's like a show and tell style meeting, so people get 15 minutes to talk, and then we'll join them off to ask questions and whatnot. And then afterwards, we'll run around. You can do introductions, who you are, or what you're interested in. And then if you're interested in a tour, you're welcome to I can walk around the was here. And then these folks are going to present on a variety of topics this evening. So there's three presentations, and we're going to have Bob go first because he's brightest. Take that as you will. Thank you.
All right, hi everybody. I'm Tron. No, I'm Bob, and I'm going to tell you about this costume that I'm currently wearing. So, it is, if you are not familiar, it is based on the movie Tron. This is the original movie. It's from 1982, and they did not have the technology that they do today for making costumes like this. So, what they did was they had white costumes, and then they had like lines on the costumes where they wanted to do the rotoscoping later. And then they did rotoscoping, which is where you take the frame by frame, you draw on it with whatever, I'm not sure exactly what, but they basically every frame of this that has light on it is a person going in and adding color to it. It's crazy. But then there's foam padding all over the place, which is really obvious. But this costume is not based on that. I'm just giving you some context for where Tron comes from. And if you aren't familiar with the Tron series, the idea is there's this world inside of computers, kind of, and some human characters are able to go into this world. Then in 2010, there was Tron Legacy, which is very confusing because you think Legacy, oh, this must be the first thing, but no, there's just Tron the original and then Tron Legacy. And what they did for their costumes was neoprene, so basically like wetsuits, and then foam padding over the top of parts of it where the lights are, and then custom EL panels, so electroluminescent panels, which are a completely different technology from LEDs. They require very high voltages, but don't end up using a lot of current. However, for this particular application, they worked with a company that they designed their own electroluminescent panels, came up with a completely different manufacturing technique. The batteries and stuff were in the backpack, like this backpack. So they were inside of there and they only lasted 12 minutes. So on set, they had like this area off camera where they just banks of batteries and they would swap them out. And it was a matter of like setting up the scene, and then they would turn on all the lights and film it, and then they'd be out of battery. So it was a laborious process, and I did not have the patience for a 12-minute battery life for Halloween evening. But they look fantastic, and one of the coolest parts is like the rings and the variety of thickness of like widths of the display, which you just can't do with LEDs. And then here's an image of kind of the behind the scenes, so you can see the foam over the neoprene. And they even had a custom fabric for the neoprene that's the hexagons. And so inside of the foam, they have inserts or like inset areas where the EL panels will go. And then wires that trace around on the outside and on the inside. They ended up making like 150 of these costumes so that there would be enough for all the extras and all that. Just a massive amount of labor, but that's what you get when you have Hollywood style budgets. And I did not, by the way. And then there's Tron Ares, which just came out. It's still in theaters. So I haven't found any details on how they did these costumes specifically, but they look really similar, and I'm guessing it's the same method. But there's, yeah, this is based more on legacy than on Ares. But it's a cool movie. And if you liked Legacy, then you should definitely see this one. In this one, the shtick is that the computer world comes into the real world. And so you've got like light bicycles going to downtown. It's awesome. And the soundtrack is fantastic.
This isn't real?
No, not yet.
Oh no.
Okay, so our costume, this is one of two. My girlfriend Laura was also in this. It was a combo. Basically, what we were looking for is we didn't want to use wetsuits because we wanted to be able to reuse parts of our costume. Like I wouldn't just keep a wetsuit around, but these pants I will definitely wear when I'm playing Ultimate Frisbee, and this jacket's pretty nice. So we wanted to have clothing that we could reuse. And the EL panels, I looked at EL wire, and it's pretty cheap, but it is so dim, and it doesn't look good, and I was not a fan of it. But you can get panels, but they are ridiculously expensive. And you can get like a 24 by 24 panel for $150. And then cut it, but then you have to wire it, and it was not something that I had the time to work on, or like, well, the time to experiment with, basically, because it would have required a lot of unknowns that I've never worked with before, and we didn't have the time for me to go down that path. So I went with LEDs. And rather than, I found these, they're called COB LED strips, which is just chip on board, but it basically means that you can have really dense strips. So there's like 400, is it 400? Yeah, 400 LEDs per meter, which is just insane. Like you can't really see that there are individual LEDs on. And so you can get them in various colors. I found out later that you can actually get RGBs, but they are like 3 times as expensive. So, okay. And it turns out like in Tron, nobody changes color. So it was a feature that I didn't need and didn't want to pay for. But they're super easy to use. Like there's, you can cut them every centimeter. So, and just scissors works. And then, and they're marked at where you can cut them. And then on the back side is 2 pads, one for 5 volts and one for ground. And so every centimeter you've got an option to solder onto. It's great. But then to simulate the varying widths of the EL panels, what I ended up doing was just using reflective tape. And so I have different widths of, up here is pretty thick, up here is pretty thin. So I've got different widths of tape. And then I did some of the circles. I couldn't get the LEDs to like bend around them nicely. So they're just not illuminated, but it's close enough, I guess. And in certain situations, like if you're in a place where there's like strobing lights, then the whole thing lights up and it looks pretty cool. And there's no foam. Like I just did not, it's too much work to like design a suit like of armor that goes over you and then cut out each of the parts. And it was just, no, like this is just a Halloween costume for one night. Okay, yes, you would do it. And then I'll go back into telling you more about the costume and the making of it, but first I want to talk about the identity disc. So this is the identity disc, and it lights up. It's pretty cool. It's basically the same strips that are on this costume. There's 2 strips, one around the inside and one around the outside. And there are 2 LiPo batteries in here. I used a model off of Thingiverse and I regretted it as soon as I started getting prints off of it, because whoever designed it had never really considered how to assemble it, or how to print it successfully. or how to like take it apart if you ever need to. So it's all like I had to use a heat gun at some points to get stuff to bend to fit, and the parts there were no like usually you have some kind of a joint so that it's mechanically like linked, but there were just flat faces. Like you can see all the flat faces that are supposed to connect to each other. And I used acetone to basically glue these pieces of ABS together. And then in other places I used E600 or 6000, I can't remember. And the rings, so there's 2 rings per quarter. And so I just rotated the rings by what is it, 45 degrees? No, half of 45. So that there would be overlap in between each of the quarters. Does that make sense? So at least the rings are overlapping with the joints. But since it's all glued together, I don't have access to these electronics anymore, which is a little frustrating because it turns out that the 380 milliamp batteries that I put in, and I put in 2 because I figured, based on the amount of power consumption that I was getting, that it would be nice to have the extra hours of battery life. Well, it turns out these batteries were really old and didn't have that battery life that I was hoping for. And so basically, I've got some shitty batteries in here that I can't take it apart without destroying it. But I did see it's already dying. But I did do some cool things with it. Like there's magnets that it was designed for there to be magnets. However, the guy who designed it didn't think about how heavy this thing would be, and so the magnets weren't strong enough to hold on to the identity disk, especially when I'm dancing. And so I ended up printing a hook. Can't quite reach it, but there's a hook on there, which is mostly successful at holding the weight, and then the magnets just hold it like in place. But the weight is on the hook. What else? Yeah, I'll move on. Oh, there's the insides. So you can see there's the 2 batteries. The 2 batteries go into a switch, which is a 2-pole 3-way switch. And so that allows me to have it either off or external, or battery 1 or battery 2. So I can just swap between the 2 batteries. And when it's in that 3rd position, it actually allows me to charge the battery because then I can plug in a charger into that. It's just a normal barrel jack. So I can charge either of the batteries. And then from there it goes into a step up to a 5-volt and then a boost converter, and then it goes to a PWM controller, which is how I can decrease the brightness. And this is actually the dimmest, so I'll bump it up a bit.
Hell yes.
Yeah. So on the dimmest level, after I think it was like 6 hours of use, my battery pack, which is just a USB brick, didn't lose a single bar. So I was really happy with that. What else? Okay, so these are some photos of it in actual use. This was immediately after we put on our costumes. And I should mention that we actually assembled everything like in place. So these are stretchy clothes, and you can't really attach non-stretchy things to stretchy things unless they are on, because otherwise when you put them on, they stretch and all the tape falls out. So we had to put our clothes on, and then put the tape on, and then put the blue LEDs on, and then solder it. And so Laura told me that this was definitely a trust exercise because I was literally soldering like on her body, inches away. It was a little sketch, but I've been soldering for a long time, so it's fine. But yeah, so Yeah, took some pictures at home, and then we went to a party, and that was fun. Except as soon as we got there, we had a wardrobe malfunction. Actually, two of them, and fortunately, the host had a soldering iron. But yeah, as all good hosts do. But one of the things that is definitely worth remembering is that every one of these connections is needs to be mechanically have strain relief, because otherwise, like an errant thumb will just rip it out, and there are lots of errant thumbs and limbs, and like it's way too easy to break these things. Um, so we did have to fix a couple times. And then when we went to the Crucible later, we were dancing and my whole upper half lost a connection. And I ended up being able to pinch it, but I had to pinch it for like 45 minutes. And just holding it in place while we're dancing and having fun. And that was not the best, but going to the Crucible with these costumes on was amazing. Like, as soon as we entered, the whole place just like stopped and gawked at us. And I don't know, 25% of the people actually commented to us about how awesome our costumes were. So that was a great feeling. Okay, so some lessons learned. One is don't trust downloaded models or like really think about them before you print them and commit to using them, because I would have saved a lot of time if I had started with this model and then thought about, okay, how's this actually going to be assembled? Because then I can put in some things in SolidWorks and make it a ton easier. Then check the battery life. So I did not do that with the identity discs, and I regret it, but they were the batteries that I had in my bin at the time, and it was a mistake. Mechanical relief on all joints is a 100% must. You can't just like run out of time and go because it's gonna fail. And since we had to make these costumes while we were wearing them, that meant assembling them the evening of the party, and like we were setting ourselves up for failure. So the ultimately, I think that doing lit things on stretchy fabrics is a bad idea. Um, it totally makes sense why in the movies they use a foam thing that is rigid and doesn't flex. Because like even with this costume, you can see it wrinkles. Like I put it on and it was straight when I put it on, but just like the fact that I move means that things are stretching in different ways as soon as I move for the first time. So stuff is gonna wrinkle. And like if I had foam stuff around it, then that wouldn't happen. So the other thing about attaching stuff to fabrics is adhesives don't work on all materials. So I actually had a pair of like pleather pants, which would have looked amazing, but I could get nothing to stick to it. Like absolutely nothing. It was like it was coated in oil and everything would just fall right off. And even the reflective tape didn't stick very well, so I ended up going to Menards and getting some extra strength double-sided sticky tape, which worked a lot better. But even that fell off in some places over the course of the night, and we kept having to put it back. So those are the things that I learned. Oh.
This is all cool.
Yeah. That's a new feature.
So, wear this while biking.
Yeah.
No, or less like it's fun.
Oh, okay, questions. Yes.
Have you been wearing that since this Saturday?
No, I did take it off very carefully. And I actually had to resolder a couple of the connections because they had broken Saturday night. So yes, I did take it off. Yes.
Are you talking about is it SOB, COB?
COB.
COB.
chip on board.
You said you could cut it. Can you reuse the like both ends? Can you
Yes.
cut it?
Yes. Yeah.
I've been looking at fruits, switches, like diodes in a circuit. It's like EL wire, kind of like what you've done, but this seems a lot better.
Yeah, it's super convenient, and it's only 5 millimeters wide, so it's really easy to put anywhere.
How
Like,
much power is that?
on the lowest, so the identity disk on the lowest setting, this was about 40 inches total, was consuming 70 milliamps. And then on the highest, it was consuming 300 milliamps.
Does it come on a roll?
Yes. So
Is it sticky on the top of it? Or
it is sticky. Depends on your definition of really sticky.
But for lighting a panel or something? Or is it-
Yes. Yeah, it would. It's 3M adhesive. It's pretty good. Like, I haven't had a problem with the adhesive falling off of the reflective tape. So yeah, it's been great.
There are a variety of vendors.
Yes, there are. It's easy to find on Amazon too. There's a whole bunch of different like Chinese random name companies that sell it.
I mean, if you play with those like sharp teeth, you know, the teeth connector to make them be more flexible and connected and solder.
I know what you're talking about. I don't think that those would be available for this because they don't have like the only way that you can the pads are on the underside of the LEDs, so you can't bite over the top because then you'd be biting into the LEDs.
Because this is extra narrow strip.
Right. Okay. Yeah, actually, I can. After I'm done, I'll walk over to you and show you the underside of what it looks like.
I mean, I can't remember, it's been a while since I used it, but in theory, the teeth are on the bottom. I've had the carve on the waterproof LEDs, I've had the carve before you kind of grab, but
What you're forgetting is there are no spaces here. So yours that you're used to have gaps between the LEDs.
Yeah.
You're saying there's LEDs continuous all the way across the top.
oh, I get that, but the pad is every centimeter. So the copper solder pad is 5 inches. Correct, the teeth would be.
So it's underneath the LED. And like you have to smash it.
Oh, it's not on the side of the LED.
Right. There is a kind that is on the sides. It's like 8 millimeters wide.
Right.
And that maybe you could use the biting thing. But even if you did, now you've got a gap. Like, so I've got a couple of 90-degree bends on here, or near 90 degrees. And I ended up just like kind of folding it.
Yeah.
And so you get some consistency, even though it's a little brighter at the bend. But if you use one of your bitey things, then you would have a gap where that bite thing is.
Yeah, no, I was just thinking for the connecting, it would be more flexible connection. It might not be.
But as you can see, like those bends aren't necessarily good.
Any other questions for Bob?
Yes.
Did you say it was PWM and is there a controller or something? Or
Yeah. So there are controllers. I've got one controller here for the legs, one controller here for the jacket, and then I took one apart and put it inside of here for the identity list.
So is it actually flashing or is it just dimming?
It's flashing faster than you can envision seeing it.
Yeah.
It's yeah, that's how it raises the brightness. It's like that's what we did. It's just going way faster and we can see it. If you had like a high-speed camera, though, you could see it. It's like flashing. Awesome. Thank you, Bob.
Yeah.
Who needs lights when you got Bob down here?
Lights.
Well, that's a tough act. I don't have any cool hardware to show you guys. I know, because
This is John's
Yeah.
first day running a laptop, so you just gotta bear with them. It's a hard time.
so.
And he's talking about how to scan books, so I mean, unless you can smash a fly with it, he's gonna have a tough time.
Oh, something. It should be good.
Right.
They do my sorry right now. No, so if that involved, so it's probably too less.
Yeah, so for my sins, I am not working with hardware. I am working with
There we go.
computers. And blessedly, I'm also getting to work with books. I did a project with a ton of people to get 1 million books out in public. And these are some of those people that you can read tiny. I don't speak for them and I don't speak for those institutions. I think Harvard even made me sign something that said, don't ever say you're associated with us, but they put the affiliation next to my name, so that's cool. I didn't do that because that would be, they told me not to do. So I said we put them in public. What's public? Is a book that's in the library public? Kinda. Right? You can do some stuff with it. What about one that's on Google Books? That's kind of public in some ways and not in others. And anybody here ever heard of Hottie Trust? We're going to skip that one. Public domain books. Creative Commons 0, are those public? Public. What about ones that are available on BitTorrent? We all remember BitTorrent. They're public, kind of, sort of. And then you got like books that are legal to do what exactly with is the question. So what we wanted to do was take books that were theoretically public. That's ones that are in the public domain, but which you can't actually pick up and do whatever you want with and make them practically in public. So doing this requires some plumbing. It is 2025 though. And so we can't talk about buildings full of dusty old books without talking about what?
Catalogs?
Talk about AI because it's 2025. Okay, where does an LLM come from? Serious question.
Egypt.
Researchers.
Data.
Yeah, lots of data, internet. This is spicy autocomplete. That's actually a phenomenal description I heard somebody use for it. It is learning how to predict the next word in a sequence. And when you do that really well and you do a couple of neat tricks, you get ChatGPT out of it. Okay, and in order to do that, you have to have a ton of next word examples. So the whole internet is a good place to start. All of Reddit, right? So yeah. Where else do all these tokens or words that these models train on come from?
Books.
Books. Where else? Wikipedia, that's a really good one. Where's a bad one? What's a bad source, but one that they use?
4chan.
That's a bad one. What else is bad?
Other LLM content.
Okay, yeah. Slop.
Publicly published high school research papers.
Absolutely. People write wrong things on the internet all the time. This is a bad idea. Another bad source is there's this thing out there called Books3. It's in the pile. If you've ever tried to train something and you said, I need a whole bunch of words to train a model with, you'd probably go download the pile and it contains one section called Books3. Books3 is a whole bunch of pirated books. Now that's like cool in a way. I mean, I think that's kind of nice. Like I said, I don't speak for institutions with deep pockets. That's kind of neat, but you can really get sued for doing that. And a bunch of the model makers have it. Are there any really bad places to be getting content? 4chan was an entrance into this. This is from this week. Yeah. Turns out when you want to train a video model, you'll go looking for anything, and they just downloaded everything on BitTorrent. And what turns out to be an intellectual property troll sued them for downloading thousands of porn videos. So that's what Mark Zuckerberg's up to this week. The metaverse must be.
Hey, they said it was for personal use.
Yeah. An interesting defense. So if this is the case and you wanted to have an open LLM, one that we can actually talk about where these tokens come from, because most of these companies won't tell you what they trained on. Where would you get all the tokens? Like Wikipedia is a good answer. There are some scrapes of other things that are kosher to be training on, Stack Overflow, but there's just not as much out there as you might want. And if Sector67 was going to make our own model, we couldn't go out and just say, train on books 3. We certainly couldn't distribute our training data so other people could replicate it. These would be crimes. So in order to do that, you have to have data that is practically available to you in mass. So does anybody remember the beginning of Google Books? It's like heady days of the internet, right? Like, what were they going to do? They were going to scan them all and just put them on the internet, right? And they were like, it'll be fine. Don't worry about this. It'll be fine. And they got the pantsuit on them. And there ended up being a bunch of settlements. And without going into all the details of them, you can't just put stuff on the internet. Public domain ones you can, though. So what we want to do is take a whole bunch of public domain books, which they had gotten from Harvard's library, and put them online. And we did. And so what did we make? This is a makerspace. We got to talk about that. Open data. We have a whole bunch of books, a whole bunch of data files online. We've got papers that describe how we did it, and we've got the actual code for how we did it. And that little one in the bottom right, grid transfer, is like pretty much the one I worked on. Like I said, a whole bunch of other people did all the work. But this is what the corpus looks like. And if you remember the first .com bust, and you remember the beginning of Google, you remember that they were scanning this stuff. They put a bunch of money into it. Anybody want to guess what it costs to like scan a book? Who's done it?
We had a book scanner for a little
Yeah.
while. We sold it, so we got smart.
Yeah. Wait, if you had to pay somebody to do it, what do you think it costs per book to get done?
You get a page a second if you're really, really fast.
Uh-huh.
Ludicrously fast.
It's like in the range of like 10 to 15 to 20 bucks, I've heard. Google won't tell me their number, so I don't know what they paid. But if you have 1 million books, you just start doing some math here, and we have 20 million bucks to scan our own books for the Sector67 LLM. Yeah. So what you do is you send a whole bunch of books in a truck from a real library to Google. They scan them, and 15 years later, you go back. And this is the simple diagram. You're going to really wish this is the one that we're working off of in a second. But basically, we take it from their servers, we store the raw data, and then we extract some stuff that we want, like the OCR text. What happens in reality, though, looks more like this. And that's not totally complete. But this is better than me showing you code, because code isn't for humans to look at. That's terrible. We don't like that very much. So, like I said, in short, what we're doing is we're taking books that are at Google. We're going to tell them, hey, we want you to convert this, get it ready for download. They have a queue for that, so you have to manage that. It's 50,000 books at a time. They take anywhere from 0 seconds to several weeks to convert. You got to check and see if it's ready. It's not ready. Check and see if it's ready. It's not ready. Go back, download it, decrypt it, unpack it. Take all of those things that you just did, put that in your own storage. You're going to want that later, and you're going to want it close to you because you're going to be moving about 70 terabytes around. And every time you want to process this, you really don't want to pull another gigabyte of data back across the wire. You're going to gather a bunch of metadata. Some of that was in the original thing you got. Some of it is also in Google systems. Some of it is in various library systems. These all have rate limits. You got to go respect those. You got to pull it all into one spot, start deduplicating it. And you also got to go get metadata on computer stuff, I'll call it. So we got book facts. It's like, when was this published? Who's the author? That's cool. We have other ones like, how good was the OCR? And then you start aggregating this into one data set and you start analyzing it and you're like, wow, this is cool. I've completed my flow chart here. What does my data look like? You can get yourself a pretty chart. What language is it in? Well, it's mostly in English and some like European languages, and that's cool. But you start looking at it like, wait a minute, start going through the data, and you'll see stuff like this. And this is a book that's in more than one language. And like different pages have different stuff in it. And well, maybe if what you really want is a chart like this, that's fine. But if you're into training models, this kind of stuff's really important. Like, anybody remember the Rosetta Stone? Like, it's kind of famous. This is good stuff. You really want to know this. You want to know where it's at. You got to go find it. You need to start pulling additional bits of data because it turns out you get the data on a per book level. So we did that by taking chunks of the book and what can you use to figure out what language text is?
So.
You can use an LLM to do it. You can also use some other models that are out there. Relatively small ones will tell you, but you can start encoding these chunks in and enriching the metadata. And so this was a big part of our process. You also go out there and you look at the OCR data. Has anyone here done OCR? It's atrocious. It's just messy and disgusting. And you end up with stuff like that on the left, which like kind of sort of you can use, but even for training an LLM, this is pretty brutal. And you want to start doing things like pulling out page numbers and yada yada. What can you use to classify lines and recombine them into something useful? It's 2025. You can use an LLM to do it. You can train models that will ferret out what this stuff is and look at the context around it. Works pretty good, and you can start getting cleaned up OCR data. You can go look at the topics that books have and find out that 9% of them have a topic and the rest of them don't. What's up?
So you said that you clean up the OCR data.
Yeah.
To use the LLM to give you the data and just skip OCR out.
Why don't you use the LLM?
Couldn't you use an LLM in replacement from using the OCR?
As in feed it the image and get it back?
Yes, just like say, look at this page,
Yeah.
tell me what it says.
So you can use an LLM to do OCR. They're not half bad at it. That is computationally really expensive. I'll talk a little bit at the end about why we didn't do that. But yes, that is possible. And especially if you've been following the state of the art in OCR, they're getting really good at some stuff they used to be really bad at. You ever tried to OCR a handwritten table of data? Gross. Harvard has a whole bunch of that in their libraries, and it turns out to be really useful stuff that isn't represented otherwise. So you might want it, but it's a mess to get. So you want to be able to combine it. We found out like 9% have a topic. Turns out, what can you do if you want to backfill that? You can train an LLM. While we're looking at graphs, I'm just going to show you this one. Does anybody want to take a guess? This is by decade how many volumes we have, how many books we have. Anybody want to guess why it's shaped that way?
Copyright.
Yeah, copyright law. What about that right tail? Is that illegal?
No, I'd be released.
Good.
No.
There are sources out there that are more recent, like government reports, that aren't under copyright. Copyright is really complex. It is a mess. And actually, this is the hardest part about getting a data set like this out. Go through the very end here and we'll talk about that. First, I'm going to spot you like something you can actually use. If you have a large data set like this, you would like to distribute it to other people, and you do not want to give Jeff Bezos $6,000 every time somebody downloads it. Anybody here a data hoarder?
Yeah.
I refuse to believe there's only one in this room. Okay?
He's got all of ours.
Yeah. Lots of people want to pull this down and work with it. And if it costs $6,000 every time you did it, it's like, you know, they had a budget for this project, but holy cow, that can blow you up really fast. There are options out there. We used R2. It has free egress. Strongly recommend looking into that if you need to distribute something. It's S3, but doesn't cost you a fortune. But what did I learn doing it? I didn't learn any exotic technologies. This was largely an exercise in plumbing. I've been a career software engineer. This was among the most boring things to do technologically, but plumbing has to get done. And if you want to put theoretically useful stuff into practically useful territory, you got to do it. So it was really fun and rewarding for that reason. You also find these cool feedback loops. You can use an LLM to enrich this data, to do the OCR and generate more data to put back into them. That's kind of neat. You can learn about frugal computing, which is pretty much what we did here. Everything we did here, you can do on your laptop, and or we had one little workstation in the corner of the room. It gets warm, it makes noise if you want to run a bunch of inference. But we're using really small models. You can do it on your laptop, no problem. And the idea here is the water usage should be dominated by how much comes out of my algae, not, diverting rivers. Libraries are rad. This took hundreds of years to do this project, and I got to run the last mile with it, feel really special. But when you go look at what it takes to actually have metadata on these books, you start to appreciate the tradition and just the enormous amount of work over the years. IP rights are really hard. So I showed this graph. The only reason that this was really possible is that librarians in the first place determined which books were in public domain using actual human eyeballs and using their know-how. We tried, others have tried to do automatic rights determination. It's ridiculously difficult, and you should really try talking a lawyer for an organization that has a $50 billion endowment into releasing something that you're like, oh, it's like 98%, that's pretty good. They do not love that. And so you really need a good way of handling IP rights. And last, things are super messy. And we talked about OCR. The data sources are undocumented. The systems you use are underdocumented. And I could talk about how we work with the Google one. But last, there's kind of the meat space analog to digital conversion. So even with all this in the OCR, and you're like, haha, we actually have like bits. We have UTF-8. Here's your data. It turns out that getting that is a mess. There are entire blogs dedicated to weird stuff you'll find in the scans from Google Books. The hands are my favorite. You find hands all over the place, and they have these weird little like heart gloves on, but you can find all kinds of weird stuff. This is Tumblr, of course, that has all this, but you can just find weird things scanned in there. Sometimes you'll see reflections. Anyways, the real world's messy, but if you do a bunch of legwork, you can get a data file. It's about a terabyte. You can download it off Hugging Face, and you too can train the Sector67 LLM, though you might need more than your laptop for that.
Questions?
Just so I understand, you took 983,000 books, physical books, and sent them off to Google, and they scanned them.
I am frail.
Yeah,
I did not do
I
that.
understand.
This is that hundreds of year process back in the early aughts through about 0809. Harvard shipped in a truck all those books to a scanning center. Virtually all of them were done non-destructively, a human being turning the pages. A bunch of these were really old. They go back to the 1200s. And they sent real books, actually scan them, flip the page, click a button. I think they actually even flip a thing.
Yeah,
Real human beings. 387 million pages.
the reason you can get a page a second is because you actually get 2 pages per click. And if you're fast, you can flip it, click it, flip it, click it, flip it, click it, flip it, click it, and you can actually hit a page a second.
And they've tried to develop machines that do it better. It's really, robotics is hard. You can saw the spines off and feed them through a machine. This really upsets the library.
Here's your book.
Yeah. But it's been done.
Do you know if when Google does that, if they will scan your books, but now we get to charge people to read it on our website?
They would never. Google Books, when they launched it, that's pretty much what the model was. We're going to organize all this information. We're going to be able to advertise. We're going to be able to sell things, affiliate, market books. I don't know exactly what all the plans were, but that was what happened. And they got the rights to do that for many, many years. And through an agreement between the university and Google, at some point, some of these rights became Harvard's to avail themselves of these scans in the OCR, which was done by Google for free for some exclusivity. I don't know the details of it, but there are a whole bunch of agreements online, in fact, some of which are in Google Books for some reason.
You scan.
Well, I think it ended up being FOIA and so on and so forth. But you can go out and find the agreements with other institutions. And that's probably the best guess I could make it, what the terms were. We built that software and open sourced it so that other universities can do the same with their libraries. There's tens of millions of books up there, and we got 1 million of them.
Do you have any examples of final use?
I don't yet. Largely, a data set like this is going to be used as a small fraction of things. We think, so the reason I put the topics up there, and it's actually a really important aspect of the metadata, when you want to fine tune things or you want models to be good at certain things, having high quality data and knowing what it's about is actually very difficult. A whole bunch of stuff is scraped, and you're like, this is some people on the internet talking on Reddit. What's it about? You're like, right? It's most useful in the context of lots of training, and probably I'm speculating in the kind of later stages where you're like, now I want to specialize it and have it gain knowledge on blank. No models that I know of have used it yet, but I suspect that will change quickly. If you look at the size of it, it's an enormous data set, especially by the standards of like, we actually know where this came from. It has actual provenance. You can tell people you used it. And even if you're Mark Zuckerberg and you're downloading anything on BitTorrent, this is a pretty large data set of high quality data that's not represented elsewhere.
So if all of the because of copyright, most of the materials from the late 1800s, early 1900s, does that mean that something that's trained on that data set would start talking to us in that period?
Period racism is available. If you don't like Grok's modern racism, you can get an old-timey racism by training it on old medical textbooks. No, yes, it would. It's going to do next word completion, but this is part of why you see it in the context of a larger data set. If you trained it on this, it would probably talk somewhat old-timey, and probably with a lot of formality. These are books in Harvard's library. These are reference tomes. It's law, it's philosophy, it's history. It's going to talk a lot differently than like, that's a great question, Bob. Like, let's delve in. Probably not going to say the same kind of stuff.
Quick question. You, after doing all this in high quality continues to be a common theme there. What do you have, or have you thought about any sort of metrics, quantitative metrics that would be able to represent the accuracy or the goodness or the standardization of the data?
So are you talking about like correctness? Like,
Well,
this is a reference source, or are you talking like,
yeah, so
like how
high
clean is,
quality
like, does it have a bunch of page numbers and running headers in it and kind of slot?
Yeah, I mean, it's like, hey, I'm gonna buy some, whatever it is. There's quantity, there's quality, and again, it's that high quality data. But just because somebody says this is high quality data doesn't necessarily mean that in the same context. And I was just curious if you come across any metrics that can help to define what is quality.
I don't have a good answer for that.
No, I don't either. So, but as somebody smart.
Cool.
So like in your sample that you all collected, it's a lot of English, but there's other languages tucked inside there too. Are there any other kind of sister projects out there for other languages, especially other scripts like Arabic or Chinese?
Try to OCR right to left and the script languages. It's brutal out there. We don't know. As far as sister projects go, if it's been scanned, and this is one of the nice things about it coming from that library is they have a multilingual collection. It's 250 languages, including a bunch that you're not going to find people speaking. So these models learn to I guess there's a bunch of it in here. I didn't show the long tail on it of the 250. You can get surprising mileage out of a small amount of that data because it learns the structure of, say, information through language, and then it learns that, oh, this and that are the same thing. And that's why those kind of like left and right panel of two different language kind of Rosetta Stone things go really far. If there are libraries that have done Google Books or other scans, you can use these tools to produce the same type of data set from that source material.
Hugging Face has also a surprising to me number of internet of other language data sets. It's just tons of language data sets.
Awesome. Thank you, John.
Wait, what?
We gotta wait for the reveal, and not quite yet.
What are you?
Well, you want, I'm gonna
Let me talk. The strategy. Oh yeah. I thought we were just doing picture time.
There's a little presentation.
Make sure you share that screen.
Okay, so my name is Scott. This one over here. And we stand at an auspicious turning point for the organization. 15 years of Sector 67, which is kind of mind-boggling in many. And so we're great at the doing. We're not so great at the telling the story or reporting the story, something like that. So what we wanted to do for the 15th anniversary, since the 10th kind of slipped by us, COVID was like a thing, I think maybe not, I don't know, but anyway, 10 kind of slipped by. So 15, we're taking a step back and marching. So we wanted to do a bit of a commemoration, and we started off by having folks send pictures in. So members, former members, people generally public sent in, and we got over a couple thousand, almost 3,000 images that people had sent in over the years of projects that happened at this space, things that they captured, and that was pretty cool. And at the block party here, we had a screen up, and we were cycling through, and that was neat. We still didn't have sort of an idea of like how we're going to commemorate this thing for the long run. If you look at that sign up there, I think, was that a 5-year anniversary?
Around 5-ish.
3. Okay, wow, we were ambitious about anniversary celebrations.
We made it to 3.
But that circuit, Bob made that circuit, and it's been running for now 12 years, I guess, 12 plus years, never a blip.
Back when he cared about quality soccer.
That's aware of that.
So it was at that, we took a little time at the block party to make some comments, and Sean had said some words about sort of what makes this place great. And it's about the people. It's really about the people. Yeah, we've got a great, amazing space that we've all worked really hard to create. Chris, first and foremost in that. A lot of blood, sweat, and tears go into the physical location. Tools certainly are amazing. But what makes this place great is the people, the creativity, the inspiration making. Full stop. We used to joke, oh, if you dumped us out in the middle of the field, we'd be building the space back, just because of the people and And so Sean made those comments, and Jacob and Kate and I were kind of talking while he was doing that, and it inspired this idea of using those pictures that were members submitted to do a photo mosaic that sort of metaphorically represents this idea, which is from a distance, you might think of this as a building or as a place. But when you get closer, you realize it's about the people in the story. And so we did that. We started this project to curate that, submitted 2,500 photographs down to just the pictures of the people. So we ended up with about 1,300 pictures of people. And then I got the drone out, took a picture of the building, and used that as the source for creating a photo mosaic. And there's a lot of interesting detail about the process of creating a photo mosaic. I found some software called Andrea Mosaic. That's a free software up to a certain size. Our mosaic ended up being 7 feet by 4 feet. So I shot them $40 for the kind of extended version at 300 DPI. If we wanted to make it 5 foot by 3 foot, the free version would have been fine at 300 DPI, but we wanted 7 by 4. So using some free software, you feed it the source images, and you have to be a little bit mindful. So in our 1,300 images, roughly speaking, there were about 2/3 landscape, 1/3 portrait. And so how you lay out the photo mosaic matters. You don't just want to take a square necessarily. You certainly can, but there are various parquets and things like that where you can have different ratios of landscape and portrait, so you can make more use of more of your photographs. And so making some judicious choices of that. And you can't obviously put all the images in necessarily because color matching won't always work. So it's a matter of going, we ended up being able to use 1100 of the sort of randomly chosen by the Andrew Mosaic software to color match to the source image, to make the photo mosaic. And then it goes and does its thing. And we did some editing of the source image to make some things a little more clear. And the nice thing about the photo mosaic is you don't have to care at all about the sort of the detail within the one source image that you're using. You can just you can almost use like Microsoft Paint to just put a blob of color in there. And since you're putting photos over that, the detail comes from the photos. And so we did a little bit of editing of that source image and ran it through the software. And it spit out an image. Is a sort of a group of folks that to get together on Sunday for sci-fi, the Sci-Fi Sunday group. We went through some iterations of that, got some suggestions. There's a coordinate system, thanks to Jacob, which turned out to be a big pain in the ass. Thanks a lot, Jacob.
Yeah, I suggested it. Scott did it.
So we refined this over time, make sure it actually kind of is understandable as the building and the people, and sent it out, got it printed. It was supposed to be shipped anywhere from 1:15 p.m. today to 5:15 p.m. and it came in literally to my porch at 5:15. Chris and my wife Laura helped us mount it to a piece of plywood, and now Jacob, you help me. You're ready for the big reveal. Are you thinking we set it in front of the table?
I think you could lean it up on the table momentarily and then try to just lay it down flat on the top of the table would be a good idea.
Just throw it right around here.
Yeah, don't hit the giant yellow ball. I think
So, lean it on the table.
set it on top of it for now and hold it up for a sec. There you go. And I think save your arms. You can eventually just lay it down.
All right. So the idea is when you're 10, we put it up on the projector and stuff to make sure you're like 10 or more feet away. What you get is an impression of what you might have as an outside of the organization. It's a building, it's a place. But then as you get closer, you can see and encourage everybody to come up and get a closer look at this when the presentations are done. All the stories, and I mean, hand to heart, every single picture in this mosaic has a great story. You can just go through and you recognize, people in some of them, you recognize fun things. So I have, you got this, Jacob? If I go back to that slide. So the sort of the blurb of this is what makes a space great. From a distance, Manipure Hackerspace is defined by its walls and tools. This mosaic reminds us the true foundation of Sector 67 lies in its community. Innovators, makers, and collaborators whose creativity and energy give meaning to the space. It's both a portrait of a place and a celebration of the people who have transformed it into something extraordinary. And then, per the licensing terms of Andrea Mosaic, we'll have this photo mosaic commemorates 15 years of joy and creativity. Section 67 was created in October 2025 for member contributed pictures. So, in a little bit more of a nutshell, this is something that you're going to see. We'll have to find a space for it. Ideally, someplace that you can see it from far away and then get closer. We don't really have that space, but we definitely have walls.
Devin just claimed the last open wall for art space on Friday, so.
Well, we'll have to find that. So someplace that you can be far away, get closer, and then still get close enough to see all the images come out of that. Any questions though?
You should play that down so Jacob doesn't die.
All right.
Just lay it flat on the table. That's the easiest bet. There you go.
And upside down and go afterwards.
Questions, anybody?
Jim.
How many images per square inch?
Yeah, so each image is about it's about 3 square inches.
Okay.
Something like that. So you can see here, yeah, it's a little over 2 inches by a little over 1 inch, inch and a quarter, maybe. I knew that at one
That's
point.
from here, the number of images per square inch, but there's actually, the images are, I'll have to look at it.
Yeah, each image is, we wanted it to be, each image to be intelligible, so you could see the subject of the actual image. And I think it turned out okay, like you can recognize, it wasn't just to make it out of photos, because we had plenty of photos of projects and the tools and all other sorts of things. We wanted it to be with people and big enough so that you could see the people, which is why we ended up with this sort of this very large print, because that was with all the images we had, the size that would make the individual images still recognizable for what it was.
It reminds me of the first ASCII character mapping to create images. That is like what we're talking 30 or 40 years later now.
Yeah.
I mean, it's in 1960 something, is when they first started having those. ASCII art? Like ASCII art, yeah.
Yeah, Jim.
So not to imply that this organization is overly white, but did you have issues with the color palette? Were there some things that were?
Yeah, so the Andrew Mosaic software, you can, one of the parameters is color adjustment. And the default is up to 30% color adjustment.
Okay, so it takes care of that.
So it will, like, you'll notice, like, if you see the railroad tracks or whatever, it picked images that were fairly good for the context of the railroad track stripe, but it also does adjust the color. So some of the greens might be greener, or some of the colors might be slightly adjusted, up to 30%. It's adjusted. It's free. Wow.
Do you have a chart, or could you generate one with an LLM that shows the ratio of like person per picture? Like, I imagine Chris is in the vast majority of them.
Oh, yeah, actually, very few images of me because I'm usually the one taking them. And I submitted the most pictures, so I deleted that out right away.
No, but we have a coordinate system, and I would be kind of curious at some point to be, since I say, well, every picture has a story.
I believe that's Jacob's project.
Where people could go and like, yeah, if they wanted to like tell the story of that picture, there's definitely people you're in here plenty if you look through and find the pictures. So it's fun to go through and look. Like, I've been through this thing a lot, and I still go through and I'll be like, oh yeah, that I'll see something new. Sorry, Peter, I think you had.
There's like letters on the edge right there. Is that?
Yeah, that's Jacob's brilliant idea to have a coordinate system. So this is so like if you have a question about an image or something, like you can locate it. It's like, okay, A6, and that'll get you roughly to 1 inch.
It's actually a whole other strategy here. It's just for playing Battleship. You can just ignore that. Set the destroyers up on there wherever you want. Go at it.
Yeah. Okay. So, Jacob.
How did you filter out the pictures that contain people from the one that didn't? And keep in mind when you answer that it's 2025.
What?
The pictures that have people from the ones that don't. That was the first thing you said.
Yeah, that was a passion project of mine over the course of several evenings, pecking away a couple hours at a time to sort into people, not people, because it was also meaningful mixtures of it wasn't just like and you could send an image recognition and say if there's a face sorted or whatever, but I wanted it to be like those pictures that told the story of the space, and so it is somewhat curated. It was it was a very manually curated data set from the 2500 to get to this.
So you're the metadata library, huh?
Yeah. I did not record the decision making that went along with it. That does not exist.
Just curious,
Less than an
is every picture in there only used once, or are they used?
Every picture only once. So that is a setting also in Android Mosaic where you could duplicate pictures if you wanted, or you could rotate or mirror. Didn't rotate or mirror. I didn't duplicate any of the images. I wanted just once per to be used for that. So there were of those maybe there were like 200 that didn't get used, and every iteration I would generate, it would kind of randomly pick which of those are in or out or something like that.
Yep.
And so, yeah, but this is what we ended up with. It's a representative slice, a large representative slice of those use. All right, other questions?
Thank you.
Oh, yeah. It's always been great to see, and so it's really great.
Is the key printed out somewhere?
No,
There's
there's
a key, but it doesn't lead anywhere.
it doesn't lead anywhere. Yes.
Yes, yeah.
Yes. Right.
He said he just like us.
All right, we can do intros and then you can come up and check this out, or like I said, if you're interested in a tour, I can show folks around. So yeah, I'll start with just what you're interested in or why you're here, what you like to do, or whatever you want to do.
Yeah, no pressure, right?
No pressure. Good luck.
Hi, my name is Matt. I live down in Edgerton, which is, if you don't know where that is, it's inside of Janesville. If you don't know where that is, you drive south.